developing natural organic matter like me and you, and inorganic cubes like the cubicles we are sent to work in every day and the houses we are given to live in, or sometimes foolishly build ourselves in the wrong designs. Putting ourselves into cubes and calling them home, this is another fine example of subtle programming. They are masters of the 2D primitive world of matter, which is black and white, no color, thus the black and white checkered pattern is one of their signs. 160 PAGE 161 PAGE. Reason 123 as what is hidden comes into plain view, you will see their signs everywhere. They own huge companies such as the Checkered Cab of New York. He makes the sign of the L as the owl. The sacred bird of Isis is also in the picture. Some are still human, some are not, however we will face them. Their plan is almost complete, even Sir Winston Churchill was in on it, but that should not surprise you. Their magic is that of mastering the cube as the world is treated as grand chessboard. They also master knowing how to move about the square without getting caught in the web. Have you ever seen a spider get trapped in its own web? All of the pyramids at one point in history were connected and they had functioning capstones on top. Not to mention many of the pyramids were completely coated with a substance that was washed away during the last flood. This substance allowed these great structures to reflect the sun's energy, giving them the ability to become like large solar panels, generating various energies depending upon the tuning. In deeper writings it states that the gods would land their ships on the top of these structures and they would serve as charging stations. Those traveling the desert could navigate their way by the shining light of the Great Pyramid, which could be seen for thousands of miles. The much older Hindu Puranas and Vedas describe detailed accounts of ships used by hyperdimensional beings. When the gods visited Earth, they would arrive in large ships, which were in other written accounts as large flying beasts because they made such monstrous noises, obviously the sound from the engines. Then they would set themselves up in the temples man had built for them, lounge, and get served. This was one of the earlier versions of the Matrix that was washed away by the last Aquarian Age flood. It seems that the destruction and chaos of these Aquarian ages are not limited to just the unsuspecting people, but often the deities themselves get destroyed by the forces of nature. When I say false, I don't mean they don't exist, I mean they lie and what they say is false as in not true, because they never make good on their word. 162 PAGE. This is how the whole cosmic clock is tuned, right at the time things are about to reach critical mass and all hope has vanished. Right at the time where people think there isn't even a Most High. Right at the time deities, people, beings and every created thing is in motion, a click happens that expands or contracts the experience. It is up to you to choose. The Egyptians actually admitted that there was a Most High being greater than the gods, but because they had not made contact with it, probably because of their dominant attitudes, they choose to obey the entities that they were already familiar with. They are called familiar spirits. It becomes clear with the sign of Aquarius that the water bearer is dumping out a bucket of water upon the earth, thus cleansing the earth from its current pesky inhabitants and getting it prepared for the next edition. The Great Pyramid itself in Egypt is said to have had 18 inches of special coating washed away from its surface. Many people look at the pharaohs of Egypt and try to grasp how such an ancient empire was so far advanced. You will also see how the feline, which is the Sphinx, plays an important role. The sign of the lioness is used in modern symbolism relating to the ruling monarch. Female, fertility, feline, and feminine all begin with Fe for a reason. As you see on the crest of England, the ruling power personifies itself as a lion, which can also be mapped in the cosmos by the constellation Leo. The females were hidden by direct order and the female role remained hidden and protected, or simply put, veiled. As can be seen in Egyptology, the Egyptian female goddess Mat was the third eye of all Egyptian gods, also known as Wadjet. This means that the eye on top of the pyramid is actually the eye of Mat. They keep the female sphinx in front of all their main lodges for protection against various spiritual forces the elite are at war with. Egyptians kept large amounts of cats in their temples. Cats carry lots of prana and are very sensitive to other life forms. They are known to contain an astral spirit that can be trained. As you will be delighted to find out, since it gives you power and strength to know. This is none other than one of Mars' tricks, or simply the matrix that we are caught up in now. The Egyptian worshipped matter as the primal cause. Our word for matter comes from the word mat. The Atlanteans perfected the ability to take matter, which is flesh formed and fashioned into a human body, and then take a soul and animate the body with the soul. The matter was their creation and the soul was of course the creation of the Most High. To do this they would have to pull souls from lower dimensions, other worlds, or wherever they could get souls. Finding souls was like mining for gold. This whole art is called necromancy, thus one cannot simply die and think it is over. They must somehow bypass reincarnation, which was always considered a curse, as if you had been netted like a fish and pulled back into the planet-planned net. Cloning makes it possible to make the body. Necromancy makes it possible to animate the body with a spirit. This is the other variation of the Philosopher's Stone, in which the alchemist used his body as the test subject. He would then add more elements, forces, spirits to his own body to enhance his abilities. If the alchemist did not have 163 PAGE, the correct formula of how to control the matter while the process was taking, it would result in his own death or complete possession, and that, my good friend, is the alchemical key. You can trace the most recent use of this soul tampering to the Sumerian Anunnaki, who are now professing they are the creators of man and woman and created them to be slaves. The true story is that Danu, also known as to all the Danann, the tribe of Dan, the Danites who were known to be giants, did discover the secret to Dnadan. The old Celtic doctrines speak of the Danu and some of their origin, in which they are clearly part of the Atlantean Club, which explains how they also had the knowledge of how to alter humans. They are also known as simply An. The A in the English language is the symbol of Atlantis, emitting the crossing of the A. The crossing makes it a pyramid with a capstone. It was normally written to look like an upside-down V, which still meant 5. Mary's mother was named Anne. She was carrying the lineage of the bloodlines so they could erect a world savior that all would eventually bow to, no matter how many they needed to create. This has been going on at least since Mithras. Reason 124. The Egyptians symbolized the spirit as a snake. In this glyph they have already trapped the spirit inside of these holding tubes. They are now placing the spirits in the clone's matter golem so they may be endowed with the intelligence and reason of the soul, thus they make better servants rather than organic machines which need to take orders before they will engage. How the elite work is they expand their rule like a pyramid and elect many consorts in a system of hierarchy. Then they consolidate all of the power that they pull from the people back into the main deity and close the top through the Hierophant, seldom distributing anything of true value. When beings come to a new planet they first set up a gate. When gates are destroyed, which has been happening, a being can no longer come into this dimension, trapping those who originally came through the gate on the planet until they are able to reconstruct the gate on the proper ley line and 164 PAGE. Make the jump back to their original planet. This is often referenced in many chronicles, annuals, and even the Bible. It often reads, "They tore down their gates and dispersed their gods." Reason 125. The eyes of Wadjet Mat always shown separate, so you cannot visualize what the complete being would look like, but now you see it is not human, it is more like the predator. The Great Pyramid's wormhole 0-point configuration is probably how continuous reincarnation, or should I say soul snatching, is happening on Earth. Necromancy obviously became primitive when new ways to harvest departed souls was discovered. There are small occult groups still practicing Goetia the old way. Due to the information already known about the pyramids, if you happen to come out of your body while in the vicinity of the pyramid, it would eventually suck you in like going down a sink. This is called a vortex wormhole black hole. When that happens you would come out somewhere, and as I mentioned briefly, it seems the pyramid could be tuned to determine where those entering its vortex would come out. Those with strong spirits have the thrust to trust they can jettison away from the whirlpool. Whirlpool. This book is being composed as Greater Israel is being realized, of course at the expense of thousands of Palestinian children's lives who have no clue of the significance of their land and bloodline. Even in Baghdad, soldiers were issued swords and began cutting off heads of the people with certain last names by instruction of their commanding officers. The people of